Alright guys, here we have a 2001 XR80. This is the dirt bike that my girlfriend Haley bought for herself, and we got to do some fixing on it. So the first thing, it runs like crap. Carburetor needs to be rebuilt, and besides that, linkage is kind of sloppy here. That's not good at all. And it just needs a general cleanup. So, you excited to get started?
Yes.
Alright, let's get after it. I'm going to show you guys how bad this thing runs. The carburetor is definitely in need of some attention. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is pull off some of the plastics, seat and gas tank, clean it up, and see what's up with that carburetor. Slide it back a little bit. There you go.
Ooh. Ooh.
You just got to pull straight out right here.
Oh. I'm gonna break it. There goes the bolt.
Look how dirty it is underneath the tank.
It's disgusting.
So gross.
I'm gonna give this baby a bath.
Yep, that's why we're washing it up. So next up is the gas tank.
Woo!
See a little strap on the back?
This?
Yep, pull that off. Yep.
Maybe.
That bar pad is ugly. We gotta pull that off for sure.
Gone.
Time for a new one. Alright, so we're pretty much bare down to where we can get to a lot of that dirt, and she is gonna give it a pressure wash. So next up, we are going to pull the carburetor off here, go through it and rebuild it, and get this thing running prime. So we have a carburetor rebuild kit that Rocky Mountain sent over. This setup right here, so that should do the trick. There you go, the whole thing just slides up. Good work. Wrench on that thing. There we go. Let's pull that whole thing off. That is the carburetor.
Yeah,
Let's go through and fix it up. The bolt just slides right off of there. So that's where all the jets are at. And there's probably some plugged up jets in there. That's why it ran so crappy. Those are the floats. Looks like we've got, yep, a new needle for that. So just thread that out of there. So that's the main jet. So once we slap some new jets in this thing, some new seals and all that, it should be running really good. The new pilot.
She's in. Oh,
Just gonna rip, yeah.
rusty.
Good thing they gave us a new one.
No kidding.
So a lot of times these seals don't really want to stay in place, especially a new seal, so we put a little grease on it and that should help it out.
Alright.
Perfect. So we are working on the fuel screw here. They provided a new one and a new spring and O-ring, I believe, so might as well go ahead and replace that. I think there's going to be a little spring in there too.
I think there's one in there, babe.
Oh, we got scammed.
Got it.
There we go.
So I need this.
Mm-hmm. So what we're gonna do is thread it all the way in and then back it out 2 turns. It's usually where it should be. You're gonna have a good running bike, babe.
Woo!
But get that crusty seal out of there. So right here, what we're gonna do is, actually I'll hold those pieces. We gotta pull it apart. So compress that spring, and there's gonna be a little cable that pops out the end of it. Pull that cable out of the slot, and then pull spring off, and that is the seal we're replacing. Needle, we're going to replace that. Yep. Just push it up.
What piece just flew off?
The little clip. So that just goes inside of there and it lays flat against the clip to hold it in. So what you got to do is compress the spring, like
And
take
put that.
yeah,
I need to put this through there.
yeah, pull the cable out. It's nice having little fingers, isn't it? It's so hard for me to do that. So it's got to go like in the slot. So you got to like twist it around until it goes all the way down. Alright, so we got the carburetor back on, but before we fire it up and test it out, we got a few more things to bolt up here. So we have a clutch cable, an air filter, new grips, and of course a bar pad. Alright, let's pop them on.
Alright.
The first thing is going to be the clutch cable. I'll have you open that up. Alright, so the old one we're going to pull off here. Let's get it exposed. Pulling the lever, pull the cable out, that, and through the slot, just like that, and then it pops out the bottom of the lever here. And you can see why we're replacing this cable. It's starting to fray right here, right as it goes into the housing. So fresh cable will make this clutch a lot easier to use. Okay, so we're gonna slide the cable out here on the handlebars, and then it connects down at the engine down here. Okay, so the cable popped off the arm, and I'll let you do the honors of pulling that cable out of there.
Woo! Got it.
Alright, there we go. So before I put any cable on, even if it's a new one, I like to squirt some lube into it. So I like to use this Motion Pro cable luber. This goes right onto the end of the cable, and I'll give you a little demonstration of how this works. So you can see now we have a complete sealed housing here, and the lube just goes in right at the end of the tool here. So once I squirt it in, I'm going to push this plunger in, and that'll force all the lube through the cable. Couple squirts, push in the plunger, force it all the way through, and that's all you got to do. And now we have a cable that works super smooth. Yep, just route it up through there, just like we had it before. Get it right down through there. This hooks right onto that arm there. So a new cable should be pretty easy to hook up. Perfect, there you go.
This?
Yep. Sweet. There you go. All the way through.
Got it.
Perfect. So the last thing we need to do is set the clutch cable free play. And how we do that is by adjusting this little screw here. And so we're gonna go out. We've got too much play right now. Screw that out a few turns and try it again. So basically she's pulling the cable and the lever apart from each other. Pull it a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So that had about, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch of slack there. So adjust it a little bit more. So there's about the width of a, like the width of a coin. Yep, there we go. So screw that all the way into the lever. There you go. And that'll lock the adjustment in place. Perfect. So that is it for the clutch cable. Actually, one more thing here. Down at the bottom, we have these 2 adjustment nuts. So if you can't get enough slack up at the top, try adjusting these 2 nuts at the bottom. Clutch cable's done. What's up next?
Bar pad.
Alright, that's probably a good idea to put on there because there's no bar pad on there right now. And you probably don't want to rack your boobs, do you?
No.
Cool. Sweet. And now we've got the grips.
Ooh.
Open those things up. This is the fun part. It's fun taking off grips and putting new grips on. With my method, at least.
Alright, let's do it.
There we go, you're getting it.
Got it.
Blow air inside the grip. It expands and slides off the bar. Pretty simple concept. Time for the row grips. I'm actually curious to see how these ones are. Tusk. Never used Tusk ones before, so let's try them out. All right. Looks like that grip's in place pretty good. What's up next?
Alright, we're gonna replace the air filter with this Tusk air filter.
See how that old one looks in there. Probably really gross, huh?
Ooh, yeah.
That one is nasty.
It's a little sticky.
Jeez, can't believe people would run it like that. Yeah, rip that thing off and throw it away. I don't know, probably not even worth cleaning that one. Okay, we should probably clean up that cage and some of the air box too. Just gonna use some, let's see, brake cleaner on that. That should do the trick. And of course, air filters need some oil. So we're just using this Maxima Fab 1 oil. Gonna hose it down pretty good until it's all one solid color. Perfect. Ready to go back on the bike. Here's the cover for it.
Get a little bit messy.
Yeah. It's hard to do anything with filter oil on your hands. Huh? Alright, the last thing we're going to be working on here, I'll actually get it because you ended up doing the bar pad, the grips, and the clutch cable. So what are we working on here?
So we're gonna do the linkage bearing kit, and Rocky Mountain sent that over.
Yeah, why are we doing that?
And we're doing that because it's a little loose.
A little floppy, huh?
Yeah.
Alright, let's get to it.
Alright, let's do it.
So we're going to jack this thing up on the scissor lift. That way we can get to the linkage down here. So this whole kit replaces the nylon bushings that go in there. And as you can see, I think we showed this earlier, but this linkage is really sloppy. Yeah, all that slop right there is not supposed to be there. So this kit will fix that up. So the linkage is this piece right here. We've got the dog bone and then the triangle. So just got 4 bolts we need to pull off here. For this last bolt for the dog bone, you can see it hits the foot peg mount. So we are gonna have to pull this off. A hunk of junk. Wow, it's a strong battery. Now this bolt should slide right out of there. There we go. Here comes the triangle piece. Oh, both of them. Cool. Now it's up to me to replace these bushings, and I'm gonna let her go work on her homework.
Bye.
So here's everything that was in the kit. We've got the pins, bushings, all 4 of them, all of the dust caps, seals for the lower shock bearing. So pretty complete kit if you ask me. And we're going to be using the vise over here to be pushing all of these old bushings out of the linkage. And we'll be using the vise to pop in the new bushings as well. So it's pretty simple to pop off the old dust caps and bushings. They all just slide right out, unless they're super crusty. All these ones have quite a bit of dirt packed in them. So you can see this bushing and pin are pretty loose. And that was the reason for all the slop in the linkage. This bushing right here, and then I believe this one has a little bit of play in it as well. Not too bad. So that one's all done. And this pin's gonna be a little bit crusty. Might have to pound that one out. All right, from the looks of it, these bushings should push right out. The dog bone, however, has 2 separate bushings, one on each side, and it sits in a step, so I can't push this bushing all the way through the linkage to remove it. I'll have to use a blind bearing puller to get a hold of this bushing and yank it out this way. Now to push the bushings out, we're gonna use a combination of sockets here. So we've got a socket that fits with the diameter of the bushing, and then another socket that fits over the bushing. So we're gonna put it in the vise just like that, clamp it down, and it'll push that bushing right out. So these sockets aren't quite deep enough for the bushing to push all the way out. So I'm just gonna have to hit it at an angle real quick here, just for the last little bit. These bushings are plastic, so they pop out pretty easily. Now if they were metal and pressed in, I definitely wouldn't go at an angle there. Move on to the next bearing, the next bushing. Yeah, so that's all it takes. Now for the last bushing, there's a seal on either side. Pop that out of there. Man, this linkage is super crusty. Glad we're replacing all this stuff. And there is gonna be a little, like a slimmer bushing inside of there. You can barely tell that bushing is still in there. It's just really dirty and worn out, but we're gonna have to find a way to push it out of there and replace it. So right here I've got the new bushing, and I'm gonna size it up with a socket. That way I know which size to use to push the old one out. All right, so this last bushing is being a bit of a pain to get out. This socket is really hard to get perfectly centered on that bushing. You can see how thin the wall is on that bushing. And I've tried heating it up using a socket with a lip, but it seems like this one just, expands the bushing and gets it stuck into place even more. So what I resorted to is using a saw. I'm just gonna cut through that bushing. That'll release the tension on it. I'll be able to peel it out of there and press the new bushing into place. So this bushing is so rusted and stuck into place, not even heat will break it loose. So I'm literally just gonna have to peel this bushing out of there. Sweet, there we go. Making that little cut definitely loosened up the tension on it, and it broke loose. So to pull the bushings out of the dog bone, what we have here is a blind bearing puller. This is like a slide hammer of sorts, and I'm gonna find the collar or the adapter that fits into that bushing. Looks like this one will work pretty good. So how this works is there's a lip inside of there. When I tighten these two pieces against each other, it's gonna expand that lip, and then I'm gonna connect the slide hammer to this, pop it right out. Should be pretty painless. I'm gonna thread the slide hammer into the collar, give it a few taps, and this thing should pop right out. I can't believe how stubborn this thing is. What might be happening is this adapter or the collar is too tight, and it's actually like lodging that bushing into place. Once again, these things are plastic, so they flex pretty easily. Let's try this out. There we go. So lesson learned, if you guys are gonna be using a blind bearing puller to pull out plastic bushings, you definitely don't wanna have these things tightened against each other really tight, or else it's gonna expand that bushing and it's gonna be stuck inside the linkage. So just keep that in mind. I think I'm just gonna tighten these ones by hand, just like that should do. I've got all the old bushings pressed out. The next step is to clean this stuff up and press in the new ones. While I have this stuff apart and all the bushings out, I figured I might as well give it some fresh paint. So I've been using the rougher pad. It's like a Scotch-Brite pad here on the buffer, just to knock off some of this rust, and then I'm gonna spray it with just some spray paint. Wish I had the time to go ahead and powder coat all this stuff, but you know what? We're just trying to make this bike functional. So spray paint will do. So I squirted some paint on the linkage. Doesn't look too bad. It's a nice little gunmetal gray. So I'm gonna start with the dog bone piece. Here's the new bushings. Make sure I have a nice fat coat of grease on everything. And the new bushings are plastic as well, or some sort of kind of softer material. So I'm gonna use a set of soft jaws, or like jaw protectors, to protect the linkage and bushings from any damage during installation. And for grease, I will be using this Maxima waterproof stuff. Never hurts to be a little bit generous with the grease here. Shit. Damn, not the fresh paint. Comment if you know where that's from. That dude is freaking hilarious. Looks like it's all the way in. Just gonna grease up the other side and pop this one in as well. Bushings are in. Just gonna pack a bunch of grease inside of here, and then I can pop in the spacer and put on the dust caps. So to protect these bearings, or these bushings, I keep calling them bearings. They're not actually bearings, but to protect them from wearing out, you definitely want to have some grease in there. And another factor that leads to them wearing out is, this isn't necessarily a frickin' motocross bike, so you don't want to be beating on it too hard and taking it off of big jumps and stuff. So not enough grease and just general abuse is what leads to these bushings wearing out. And when you're pushing in these bushings, make sure you don't clamp the vise down really tight, or else it'll actually squish the bushing inside of here, and the pin won't fit as well. Please don't ask me how I figured that one out. And the last thing we've got for this piece is a couple of dust caps. Sweet, now we have a linkage that works pretty smoothly. I'm gonna move on to the triangle piece now. Got the linkage back in order, looking prime. Time to get it bolted up on the bike. Since the majority of these linkage bolts have rust or corrosion, I will be using some anti-seize lubricant to prevent them from rusting more in the future. Now, in order to get this rear end up high enough to get the linkage in, I'm just gonna use a tie strap to kind of hold it into position. Right there should work pretty good. Now the last thing we'll need to do is torque these bolts. For the larger ones, I'm gonna go 25 foot-pounds, and the lower shock bolt, I'm going to torque to 20. Man, that is looking fresh. Every minute this bike is looking better. So now we're gonna do a little test on it and see if there's any slop in the linkage like we had previously. So I'm gonna pull up and down on the back wheel and hold the back of the bike down, or like the subframe part of the bike, as I'm doing this. See if I can get any movement out of it. Nope. Well, there's a little bit of play there. Maybe like an 1/8 inch, but that's a heck of a lot better than the probably inch we had before. So that's it for the linkage. The next thing we're gonna be doing is bolting up the gas tank and plastics and seeing if this guy runs. Oh, and can't forget to bolt up the foot peg. She's back.
Whoop, whoop.
I was studying.
You know, studying.
Was good?
Yeah, that's good.
So tell them what you're going to school for.
I'm going to school for dental hygiene, so pretty soon. 1 year I'll be a dental hygienist.
Heck yeah.
That's right.
Boom. All right, let's get this thing back together and see if it runs. Pop that thing on. It's probably got old gas in there.
Yeah, it does.
Thing's been sitting in the corner for a few months. Slap them shrouds back on. Look at this side. Just gotta cram it in the hole. Slap that puppy on, and I think we'll be ready to fire this thing up. Yeah, we're gonna have to replace that seat cover. A little torn up. You excited to hear this thing run?
Yes.
All right, let's go fire it up. See how she runs. She runs real good. Crappy. We're gonna have to do some more fixing on her. So as you guys heard, the bike is still running pretty rough, and 100% sure I got that carburetor completely clean. There's no plug jets, no plugged holes anywhere. So what I'm thinking is going on is this thing has aftermarket exhaust on it. It's got BBR pipe, and what it sounds like is it's running a little bit lean. So I'm thinking it's not jetted properly for that pipe. So I'm gonna pull the carburetor back off, check what sizes are in there, and then bump up the main a size and possibly the pilot as well. All right, I've got the jets out. Let's take a look at what sizes we have here. So this one is the pilot jet. It'll have a number stamped on the side of it. So right there, it's a 35, and this is the main jet. This jet has a much bigger hole, so it should be a bigger number. This one is a 95. So BBR recommends a 105 main and 38 pilot for this pipe. All right, so I found a 105 main and a 38 pilot, but I'm just gonna throw the 105 main in and see if that makes a difference. I don't wanna make too many changes at once. I just noticed these hoses are getting a little bit weathered, so I am going to replace them with some of this red Niemela hose. Should add a little bit of touch to this bike. Now let's see if it runs any better with that 38 pilot. Really hoping that fixes the problem. So she runs really good down low, doesn't bog anymore. There's just a little bit of hesitation, like mid-range. You can hear it, it'll pull and then it'll drop off and then it'll pull hard again. So I'm thinking that I'll need to adjust the needle here. So I'm gonna pull out the slide. It feels like it's a little bit too rich on the mid-range. So I'm gonna drop that needle down by 1 clip. So it looks like that clip is in the middle position. So I'm gonna bring it up 1 notch and that'll lean it out just a little bit. And I think it'll fix that little hesitation issue. Yeah, she's running good. So I think we got her running pretty good now. And when I was out ripping it, it seemed like the linkage was nice and tight. So the bike is pretty good mechanically. Oh, I added one more thing here. I was gonna show you guys some more red fuel line or red hoses. Found some more of this stuff in the cabinet. It's from Niemela, and I'll actually link it down below for you guys. This is the best colored fuel line I found. Doesn't deteriorate and crack like most. From here on out, what we're gonna do is a little more fixing. Things like tires, chain sprockets, the seat cover's torn, some graphics, got some other cool ideas for it. Basically just gonna do a little mini build series so that way Haley has something cool to ride. So why don't you guys put it down below in the comment section what you wanna see done to this bike. So basically all the parts going on this little XR80 are from Rocky Mountain. They're a really good resource for aftermarket parts, OEM stuff, riding gear, you name it, they have it. They're pretty much where I get all of the parts for my bikes. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it or learned a thing or two. If you did, make sure you share it with your riding friends and stay tuned for the next video coming out with this little XR80. Thanks for watching, everyone.